I always wondered what was inside the old house on the hill. It stood there for as long as I could remember, abandoned and decaying, a dark silhouette against the sky. No one ever went near it, not even the bravest kids in the neighborhood. They said it was haunted by the ghosts of the family that used to live there, who died in a mysterious fire one night. They said you could hear their screams and see their shadows in the windows. They said if you dared to enter, you would never come out alive. But I was curious. I wanted to see for myself what secrets the house hid. I wanted to prove that there was nothing to be afraid of. I wanted to be the first one to explore it and tell everyone what I found. So one day, when my parents were out of town and I had nothing better to do, I decided to go to the house on the hill. I packed a flashlight, a camera, and a knife, just in case. I put on my backpack and walked out of the door, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. I looked up at the hill and saw the house looming over me, like a giant monster waiting to devour me. I swallowed hard and started to climb. It took me about half an hour to reach the top of the hill. The house was even bigger and more sinister than I had imagined. It was covered with vines and weeds, and the windows were broken and boarded up. The door was locked with a rusty chain and padlock, but I managed to break it with my knife. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The first thing that hit me was the smell. It was a foul stench of rot and decay, like something had died in there. I covered my nose and mouth with my hand and turned on my flashlight. The beam of light revealed a dusty and cobwebbed hallway, with doors on both sides. I walked down the hall, looking for a sign of life, or death. I opened the first door on the left and entered a living room. There was a fireplace, a sofa, a coffee table, and a bookshelf. Everything was covered with dust and ashes, as if no one had touched them for years. I looked around and saw a family portrait on the wall. It showed a man, a woman, and two children, smiling happily. They looked normal and ordinary, not like the ghosts that haunted the house. I wondered what happened to them, and why they died in the fire. I took a picture of the portrait with my camera and moved on to the next room. It was a kitchen, with a stove, a fridge, a sink, and a table. There were dishes and utensils on the counter, and food in the cabinets. Some of the food was rotten and moldy, and some of it was still fresh and edible. I opened the fridge and saw a carton of milk, a pack of cheese, and a jar of jam. They all had expiration dates from last week. I was puzzled. How could that be possible? Who was living in the house, and why didn't they show themselves? I took a picture of the fridge with my camera and left the kitchen. I continued to explore the house, finding more rooms and more clues. There was a dining room with a table and chairs, and a chandelier. There was a bathroom with a tub, a sink, and a toilet. There was a bedroom with a bed, a closet, and a dresser. There was a study with a desk, a chair, and a bookcase. There was a basement with a furnace, a washer, and a dryer. There was an attic with a trunk, a chest, and a dollhouse. In every room, I found evidence of someone living in the house, but I never saw anyone. I heard noises, though. Footsteps, creaks, whispers, giggles. They seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, as if the house was alive and playing with me. I felt a chill run down my spine, and a sense of dread fill my heart. I realized that I was not alone in the house, and that I was not welcome. I decided to get out of there as fast as I could. I ran back to the hallway, looking for the exit. But I couldn't find it. The door was gone, replaced by a wall. I panicked and tried to break the wall with my knife, but it was too hard and solid. I screamed and banged on the wall, hoping someone would hear me and help me. But no one came. No one except the ghosts. They appeared in front of me, one by one. The man, the woman, and the 2 children from the portrait. They looked exactly like they did in the picture, except for their eyes. Their eyes were black and empty, like holes in their faces. They stared at me with a cold and cruel expression, and spoke in a low and menacing voice. "Hello, stranger. Welcome to our house. We've been expecting for someone like you." They surrounded me and grabbed me by the arms and legs. They dragged me to the living room, where the fireplace was lit. They threw me on the sofa, and tied me up with ropes. They smiled wickedly and said, "We're so glad you came. We've been lonely for so long. We need someone to keep us company. Someone to play with. Someone to burn with." They picked up a torch and set it on fire. They brought it closer to me, and I felt the heat and the pain. I screamed and begged for mercy, but they didn't listen. They laughed and said, "Don't worry, stranger. It won't hurt for long. Soon, you'll be one of us. Soon, you'll be a ghost." They touched the torch to my skin, and I felt the fire consume me. I closed my eyes and waited for the end. But it never came. I opened my eyes and saw that I was still alive, still burning, still screaming. They looked at me and said, "Oops, we forgot to tell you. From now you will be living with us." They laughed and laughed, and I cried and cried. And then, I heard a loud bang. The door of the house was kicked open, and a group of police officers stormed in. They had guns and flashlights, and they shouted, "Freeze! Drop the weapon! Hands in the air!" They saw me on the sofa, tied up and on fire. They saw them, holding the torch, smiling wickedly. They were shocked and terrified, but they reacted quickly. They shot them, and they fell to the ground, bleeding and moaning. They ran to me and untied me, and put out the fire. They wrapped me in a blanket and carried me outside. They put me in an ambulance and drove me to the hospital. I was saved. I was alive. I was free. But I was not the same. I was scarred and traumatized. I had burns all over my body, and nightmares every night. I had to go to therapy and take medication. I had to live with the memory of what happened to me in the house on the hill. They haunted me every day, every night, every moment. They whispered in my ear, they appeared in my mirror, they crawled under my bed. They tormented me and tortured me, and they never let me go. They said, "You can't escape us, stranger. You belong to us." They laughed and laughed, and I cried and cried. And that's how it's been ever since. I'm still in the world, still in the hospital, still in pain. I can't escape, I can't die, I can't stop the pain. I'm trapped in a nightmare, and I can't wake up.